Welcome to the new academic year and the new course Genetics and Plant Breeding. I believe you all are safe in this pandemic situation of COVID-19. That's why we are moving to this mode of teaching. Today let me introduce our new topic, Genetics and Plant Breeding. And I will be dealing with the first part of this course, Genetics. And let me introduce the outline of this course. The course objective in broad sense is to understand the basic principles of heredity and variations in life. This course also aims to understand the inheritance patterns of nuclear and extranuclear genes. Once again, we will be dealing with the basic principles of heredity and variations in life. Also, we will try to understand the patterns of inheritance in nuclear as well as extranuclear genes. Why we study this course? Because sexually reproducing organisms are blessed with the capacity for recombination. New and new combinations arise as a result of sexually reproducing organisms are blessed with the capacity for recombination. That is, the characters blending together from father and mother or paternal and maternal side. They will be given rise to a new progeny, the offspring with new genetic combinations. Vegetatively reproducing organisms, both animals and plants, they will produce exactly the same type of offsprings as a result of vegetative reproduction. And the course is divided into different modules, and the first module will be having a background of this new branch of biology called genetics, or precisely classical genetics. And we will be having a short life sketch of a great man called Gregor Johannes Mendel, the father of genetics. Father of genetics. Johannes Mendel, and we will be coming across a little bit more with the basic laws governing genetics or Mendelian principles or the laws of Mendel's experiments, and finally we will be coming more detailed into the Mendelian ratios. Sorry. And module 2 will be delving more into the growth of genetics, that is post-Mendelian period, modified Mendelian ratios, etc. And these modified Mendelian ratios can be in these subtitles like incomplete dominance, as exhibited by a common flower called mirabilis, commonly called as the 4 o'clock plant, and also interaction of genes, that is exemplified by the Koch pattern in a poultry. Also, another term which is familiar or non-familiar to you is epistasis. There are two types, recessive epistasis as well as dominant epistasis. And Example of recessive epistasis is coat color in mice and dominant epistasis is fruit color in summer squashes. And we have also complementary genes. Example is the flower color in Lathyrus. So this is about the module 2, an important aspect of post-Mendelian period. And we have in the third module another aspect called multiple alleles. As the name indicates, multiple alleles. Example is ABO blood groups in human beings. ABO blood group in human beings. And we have codominance. An example is self-sterility in Nicotian, tobacco plant. And coming to the next module, we have the quantitative characters. Quantitative characters, that are the characters that can be measured. Example is the polygenic inheritance. Polygenic inheritance is given by the skin color in man and also ear size in males. So one example from animals and one example from plants. And we have the fifth module. Little more deeper, we are going into genetics. Here we come across two important concepts called linkage and crossing over. Linkage and crossing over. And we have the incomplete linkage, linkage of independent assortment, complete linkage, all these things will be coming up. And in the sixth module we will be dealing with how sex is determined in human beings, in animals, in bees and in plants. So sex determination is another aspect we are dealing with in this course. And also we have in the seventh module extranuclear inheritance. So far we have studied that the characters or the genes are located in the chromosomes, the DNA, which are seen in the chromosomes. But the current understanding is there are genes which are seen outside the nucleus. They are called extranuclear genes. Example, chloroplast DNA, mitochondrial DNA, etc. So these extranuclear genes also play a vital role in determining the characters of the progeny. So we have an example, maternal influence. That is plastid inheritance in mirabilis, again the 4 o'clock plant. And also we have another example, kappa particles in paramecium. You have studied this small animal paramecium in your zoology class. So there is a particular particle called kappa particle which specifically make paramecium a wonderful organism, whether it is harmful or innocent. And we have the last module, it is known as population genetics. And there is a famous law called the Hardy-Weinberg law. So these are the 8 modules which we will come across in this course of classical genetics. So coming into the practicals, we have 36 hours of practicals. So the students, we are expected to work out and record the problems in monohybrid, dihybrid and testigrowths and backroots. All types of modified Mendelian ratios also. And also we have to study the human karyotype and the study of characters of karyotypes and symptoms of symptoms, especially the characters or abnormalities associated with the sex chromosomes like Klinefelter syndrome, Down syndrome or Turner syndrome, etc. So these are the practicals which we have to work out and record. And coming to the reference part, we will be having a good number of books on genetics in the library. I will be sharing some of the e-copies of these books to you. And also we can have books from our main library. You can have your own copies and you can read furthermore. to enrich your knowledge. And let's come to the class, introduction into this course. What is the genetics? How it is classified? And we can define genetics as the scientific study of heredity and variations among organisms related by descendants. So it is a study of heredity and variations. Heredity and variations among organisms exhibited by the progenies or descendants. So two terms are important here, heredity and variation. We will come to it later. So here the genetics, it can be classified into two branches. One is classical genetics and the modern genetics. So classical genetics will be dealing with the Mendelian period, post-Mendelian period, and the modern genetics is definitely dealing with the recent molecular genetics. So classical genetics and modern genetics. Classical genetics is the Mendelian period and post-Mendelian period, and the modern genetics dealing with the molecular aspects of the genetics. So this is the overall purview of this course. And we will be dealing with the classical genetics in this course. We will be having the molecular genetics in next or the next semester and in your higher classes. Then what is heredity? So as I mentioned here, genetics is study of heredity and variations exhibited in the descendants related by parents. And heredity means the simple term. It is the tendency of individuals to resemble their parents. Tendency of offsprings produced to resemble their parents can be termed as heredity. For example, cats will produce only kitten, no puppies. Am I right? And dogs will produce only puppies, no kitten. Or take a coconut tree, it will never give a mango. And you cannot have a jackfruit from another plant other than jackfruit. So, the same parents will produce progenies. They are similar or resembling with them. And this tendency is termed as heredity. I think it is clear. Another example from my experience. I am coming from a far-off village in Idiki. And once in a while, maybe 2 or 3 months interval, I will be visiting my home. And I come across the local villages, the people, especially children are there. While walking, they will be smiling at me. I will smile back. I don't know who they are, what their name, which family, but I can make out from their facial appearance. These children belong to this family and these children are of these parents. Their parents may be my classmates. I know them well. But the next generation I am not familiar with. But they know me. That's why they are smiling at me. So I can make out, you belong to this family. How is your father? So they will be wondering, oh, this father knows us. Okay. So we can make out from the very facial appearance who this person is. This always need not be applicable to the immediate progenies. It can be applicable to very, very distant relations also. I was teaching at KE College, Maman, some years back. And on the very first day, I was sitting in the staff room, and another professor was coming from a place called Chakamura near Pala. He came to our department to see the new inmate in the department. And we had a chat. At the end, he asked me, "Father, do you have any relatives in Chakamura? Because my house is at Idiki, and there is no chance that some of my relatives are staying there in Chakamura, Pala." So I said, I don't exactly remember anybody there. And he said, "See, Father, your face looks very closer to a family in his village, Chakamura, and his name is Joy." So in the evening, I called my mother and asked, "Mother, one of our professors from Chakamura told me that my face cut is exactly similar to a person in Chakamura who is running some business." Then mother said, "Haha, that family name I don't mention here, that family is my mother's family. My mother is from Chakamura, my father was from Ramuram, and she said, this family is related to us." See, maybe several generations have passed by, and we too had some similarity which is recognized by other persons. So this tendency is called heredity. The other side of this term, not only the tendency to resemble their parents, the offsprings of siblings themselves, they also show similarity. That's why we can recognize your sister or brother from your face cut. Okay. We can make out the members, the siblings or the children of the same parents by their simple appearance. So we modify our definition by combining these two. The tendency of the offsprings to resemble with their parents and among themselves can be termed as heredity. Once more, the similarity shown by the offsprings with their parents and among themselves can be termed as heredity. Then let us see what is variation. Variation is just the other side of heredity. If heredity is the resemblances or similarities shown by the offsprings, variations are the differences shown by the offsprings with their parents and among themselves. It is our daily experience that the offsprings produced or children produced of this very same parents are not alike. You and your brother are not alike. You and your sister are not alike. The only exception to this is the case of identical twins. We know the identical twins are produced as a result of the division of the very same embryonic cell or very same zygote. That means they have the single origin. And that's why we cannot easily differentiate between two identical twins. But if you are very familiar with these two members, definitely we can make out. So, variation is the tendency of the offsprings to differ from their parents and among themselves. Okay, so I think these two terms are now clear to you, heredity and variations. This is the nutshell or base of genetics. And heredity and variations can be of two types: autogenous variation and environmental variations. Autogenous variations are due to mutation or recombination in the genetic material of the offspring. It is irreversible. But environmental variations that are created by food, temperature, moisture, etc., that can be varying, or it can vary from person to person, location to location. So a person growing in Ernakulam will be susceptible to high temperature, but he may not be so easy with the cold temperature. A person in Munnar, a child born in Munnar, may find it easier to survive in cold condition, but will be difficult to survive in very hot condition. So these are the effect of environmental variations. The environment causes certain changes in the individual. Okay, you might have seen plants growing in high altitude or high cold conditions. They'll be having large number of trichomes or hairs on their plant body. Or the puppies and cats that are growing in very cold conditions will be having very nice elongated fur or hairs on their body. And you might have noticed the foreigners, the white people coming to our land. Usually they don't have much hairs on their body, but people in the temperate and cold region, they will be having more hairs to protect themselves. That's the environmental adaptation we can call it. It's environment changes. And how this term genetics evolved. So genetics is a term etymologically coined by two terms. That is a Greek term called geno. Geno means to give birth. Genesis. In the first book of our Bible it is called Genesis. In Malayalam it is called Ulpatti. Ulbhav means origin. So here we have the Greek word geno, which means to give birth. And it was William Bateson in the year 1905 gave this name. In 1905, William Bateson, he coined this term genetics. And the genetics is the scientific study of variation among organisms. Coming to a famous man, a monk called Gregor Mendel. He is considered to be the father of genetics. And he was born in the year 1822 and died in the year 1884. So coming to a short life sketch of this gentleman, Gregor Mendel. He was born to a peasant family, very poor parents, in the year 1822 of the place called Moravia, a part of present-day Czechoslovakia. And he was very brilliant, good at studies, but unfortunately his parents were very poor. He was sent to a famous school in Olmütz, that country, but due to poor health and financial constraints, he stopped his studies, or he was forced to discontinue his schooling in Olmütz. So he made his mind to join a seminary, an Austrian seminary, and it was at Brunn, Austria. So there was two things in his mind. One, he can continue his studies, which was stopped by the poor economic condition of the parents. Also at the same time, a new door opened for his higher studies. So he was, after completing his seminary studies, ordained a priest. That's a normal procedure. One who enters the seminary, they will be undergoing certain secular as well as priestly studies, and they will be ordained as a priest. Once you are ordained as a priest, then only you can continue your mission. Myself or we people, fathers working here, we have also undergone some training of 15, 16 years. Okay. Then only will be ordained as priests. So here, Mendel was also ordained as a priest, and he was appointed as a vicar of the parish. But as he said, his intention was not to rule or administer a parish, but he was interested more in higher studies and scientific experiments. However, and he was appointed as a vicar of the parish. He did his work well, but not the full satisfaction of his heart. So the authorities of the monastery decided to send him for higher studies. As a result, he was sent to pursue his higher studies in Vienna University, Austria. And in 1851 to 1853, he studied mathematics and natural science. See, many of you have studied biomaths in your plus 2. Recently, only this combination came into our academic scenario. So, Mendel purposefully took mathematics and natural science as his core subjects. You might have selected botany with a fear to escape, or it is a mechanism to escape from the mathematical field. But mathematics and biology, natural science, they are very, very closely linked. And so this blending, maths with the natural science, was of great help for Mendel in his later experiments. So he completed his studies, and after returning to Brunn, he started his career as a natural science teacher in the school. Later, he started his experiments with rodents. Rodent means our mice, eli. So, it was not acceptable to the members of the monastery because rodents are animals, they have sex, and this young priest, Mendel, he was experimenting with these rodents, putting them, male and female, into a cage and watching their mating pattern and separating them and putting in different cages, counting the number of progenies produced. So, the superior warned Mendel or ordered Mendel to stop experimenting with these rodents because they have sex. So usually, you and we are also knowing that sex is in the colloquial sense is not permitted to priests, ordained priests. So it is unfair to do experiments with, even though it is with animals, it is unfair to do experiment with sex with animals. That's why the superior, such a pious, noble soul, he said, Mendel, you should not further do any experiment with the rodents and their sex. Okay, well, Mendel said, I will not. But he asked for permission to do experiment with plants. Oh, since plants don't have any sex, their understanding, the superior permitted him to do experiments with plants. And that's why Mendel selected the common garden pea, Pisum sativum, as his experimental tool. And there are several characters that are noticed by Mendel to select this plant for his experiment, this Pisum sativum. One, These garden bees are very easy to obtain, and there are a good number of varieties. They are pure breeding varieties. Pure breeding varieties. Pure breeding varieties. What is a pure breeding variety? It's nothing but the genes that contain are not a mixing up of several genes from maternal and paternal lines. They have the very same unique set of genes that are not mixed up. So that's the main reason why I said. Second character was all the pea plants were of self-pollinating type. Okay. So even if cross-pollination is not happening, these pea plants were self-pollinating to yield the next generation type. And their androecium and gynoecium were safely enclosed within colorful petals. You also might have noticed the pea plant, the violet color, white color, or pink color. Their petals are very large and they are enclosing, or they are safely enclosing the gynoecium and androecium of the very same flower, so that foreign pollens are not deposited into this flower. Or in a way, you can say cross-pollination is blocked by this peculiar nature of the petals, and they are self-pollinating to yield the next generation. So he collected 34 varieties of them, and finally reduced it to 22 types, 22 varieties, and he took 8 years. 8 years to complete his research in pea plants. So we know the pea plant will grow and flower, produce next generation within 2 or 3 months. Okay. So 8 years into this much of cycles. Okay. Within 3 months, take it 3 months. So 4 sets of progenies can be produced within an year. And there are 22 types. So 22 into 4 into, he could get a good number of seedlings. We know a single pea plant, take it, it will be yielding say 10 to 15, 20 seeds or peas within a single pod. He discovered the basic principles of heredity through his experiment conducted in the master garden, and he could analyze this huge data collected by himself, first-hand data collected by Mendel during these 8 years with his deep knowledge in mathematics, especially statistics. He could precisely and scientifically analyze and interpret this huge data, which will come to the experiments later. He could interpret in a very, very scientific and correct manner after his experiments. This is the plant Physarum satae. It's common garden plant. And why he chose the pea plant Physarum satae? So there are several characters. Some of them are they have a very short lifespan. As I said earlier, a pea plant will definitely grow, flower, and complete its life cycle within 2 to 3 months. So very short lifespan, and easy to cultivate. Okay, they are very easy to cultivate, emasculate, and to bag, to check cross pollination. It is very easy to cultivate and control this plant. And third character is they are self-pollinating type, and the pollination is very easy. So they are self-pollinating, and pollination is very easy since their gynoecium and androecium are concerned. And large number of offsprings are produced by a single cross. Okay, good number. Because a single plant will produce large number of pods, and each pod will be having 10 to 15 or 20 seeds inside. So we can have a good number, large number of progenies, and many possess sharply distinct inheritable characters. Okay, so there are 7 characters which Mendel took for his study. Okay, so these are the 7 contrasting pairs of characters. Okay, a character is, for example, the height of the plant. A character, height of the plant. And the contrasting pairs, the height of the plant can be either tall or dwarf. Clear? Just like the 2 sides of the very same coin. And the 7 characters, he took the seed, the form of the seed. It may be round in shape, okay, or it may be wrinkled. The character is grey and round, white and wrinkled. Cotyledons, this the color of the cotyledon, it can be yellow or green. Then flower color, it can be either white or violet or red. Then form of the pod, whether it is full or constricted with ridges and flowers. And the color of the pod, whether it is yellow or it is green. And the place of the flower, whether it is produced on the axils or at the tip of the pods, terminal or axial. And as I said, the size or height of the plant, long or short. So these are the 7 characters, contrasting pairs of characters that Mendel took for his experiment. And the secret, okay, what was the secret of Mendel's experiment? 1, they were self-pollinated tree plants for several generations. Some of the plants or animals, they may not be self-pollinating types. Here, Mendel took Pisum sativum and it was self-pollinating. That was very wonderful and good selection as far as Mendel is concerned. Second one is, he could perform crosses between varieties exhibiting alternative forms of race. For example, a tall plant with a dwarf plant, Mendel could cross-pollinate. A plant which produces white flower with a plant which produces a red flower. Okay. So, he could produce some of the characters he took was example. Male purple flower was with the female white flower. Okay. And the hybrid produced by these processes to self-pollinate for several generations. Usually the hybrid produced are very difficult to self-pollinate. Okay. And he took a single character at a time. That was another. If we study something, we can concentrate on a particular topic, particular point at a time. Complete it, master it, and later you can take the other one. On the contrary, if you take everything, all subjects, say genetics, taxonomy, environment science, plant breeding, all of a sudden if you are trying to take in everything, you will be a failure. So, Mendel took a single character at a time. That was his secret. Then, he could get quantitative results, measurable, countable, noticeable results he could get. That is quantitative results. And he applied mathematical models to the study of biological inheritance. Mathematical principles, statistics. So, statistical predictions he could effectively employ into his experiments. And finally, 8 years of research involving tens of thousands of individual plants. So, nowadays, in order to get a PhD degree, a research degree, we have to spend at least 5 years at the minimum in our university. So, maybe some 150 years ago, Mendel, without any coercion, without any direction, he took 8 years. 8 years to complete his research, and he was involving tens of thousands of plants, pea plants, So when the number of replica or number of progenies increase, the reliability, the validity, the credibility of the results is at maximum. So Mendel could get a perfect result from his studies result because of this selection of thousands of plants over 8 years. And we will have the experiments of Mendel on plant breeding in the section itself, no problem, we will complete this. So the title of his thesis was Experiments on Plant Hybrids by Gregor Mendel. Experiments on plant hybrids. See how brief it is, but it contains a vast ocean of knowledge. So Mendel presented his findings in 1865, February 8th, before the famous Brunn Natural Society, Natural Science Society. Okay, he presented his work, the results in a lecture, and he published his work in the year 1866. Unfortunately, I should say unfortunately, his study and findings were misunderstood because the scientists sitting in the Brunn Natural Science Society could not assimilate the worth of the research done by Mendel. Oh, they were saying this is a monastery monk. He has done something in the pea plants. Not worthy. It's not significant. So the scientific community was involved in the theory of organic evolution. At that time, Charles Darwin was the towering figure in the scientific world, and his theory of evolution, the theory of natural selection, was very prominent, and many scientists could not understand the depth of Mendel's work. So they had simply discarded his findings and thesis. And Mendel breathed his last breath on 6th January 1882 without ever knowing the rarest of rare honor, that is, the father of genetics, is awaiting him in future. And Mendel's research papers went unnoticed since 1900. Okay? That is almost 18 years. His findings were in the godown of Brunn Natural Science Society. In 1900, Mendel's findings were rediscovered. It is called rediscovery of Mendelian principles. 3 scientists at 3 corners of the world. One, Hugo de Vries, another fellow, Karl Correns from Germany, and Scherman from Sweden. So these 3 scientists, independently, without knowing each other, they drew conclusions as Mendel's out of their experience. Okay? So de Vries reported that Mendelian principles were applicable to different seed plants, and Karl Correns released the full significance of the data on garden peas. In 1902, he connected the behavior of Mendel's factors to chromosomes. So these 3 scientists, after 18 years of Mendel's death, rediscovered the Mendelian principles through their experiments, and they admitted that the work done and the result found by Mendel was extraordinary, and they are 100% true and 100% significant with regard to the hybrids and genetics. Okay. So let us come to some important concepts in genetics in the next class. Thank you for your